Now, anyone who's seen North Yorkshire up close, or indeed peered out from a train window while travelling through it, will have noticed that the country is crisscrossed by dry stone walls, some of which are centuries old and originally designed to enclose grazing sheep. But in recent years, stone has become increasingly popular in residential gardens and has also featured heavily in show gardens at Chelsea Flower Show. Well, earlier today, Matthew Wilson, himself a champion of stone, met Richard Clegg at Coldstone's Cut, Yorkshire's biggest and highest public artwork in Nidderdale.
Well, it is certainly windy and exposed and bleak. We're almost at the top of Nidderdale here, but there's not many places better to come and talk about stone. This is Coldstone's Cut, this fantastic, relatively new installation out on the moors in Nidderdale, right on the edge of a working quarry, which is what you can hear chuntering away in the background. And I've come here to meet expert dry stone waller Richard Clegg to talk a little bit more about the stone in North Yorkshire, but also how we can use stone in our own gardens. Richard, when I think of North Yorkshire, I think about dry stone walling. I mean, it's everywhere. It's not exclusive to North Yorkshire, of course. There's dry stone walling in other parts of the country, the Lake District, Peak District, and so on. But it's certainly a feature of this part of the world. Now, your work used to be out on the moors, but increasingly you're working in people's gardens.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I did about maybe 10 years working on my own and then working with a few guys and one thing and another on the moors, but I could do something more relevant in gardens that will allow me to be a little bit more artistically expressive as well. I always like to try and bring that into the work.
So what sort of things are you doing? Well, obviously you worked on my 2015 Chelsea garden, and that was an integral part of the design. Presumably you're not just doing dry stone walls in people's gardens. It must be more complicated than that.
We use the discipline, bring it into such things as waterfalls, stream flows. We use natural stone, and we try to always bring a dry stone element into it, which gives it sort of a unique angle. And for me, it allows me to work creatively. It does allow me to express myself. I am a failed art student. and
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I think that's what I do, and I'm very happy, so yeah.
Well, we've moved away from the sound of the quarry to the other side of this magnificent art installation, and it is remarkable, actually. You can barely hear it. You would almost not know it's there. To what extent do you think you can or should integrate walling stone and plants? I mean, I'm thinking in particular of, crevice planting walls and things like that, which we've done at Chelsea together.
Well, I'm kind of absolutely without any knowledge whatsoever of green things, but what I do know and what my passion is, that if we build a wall in a garden anywhere, it creates a backdrop. For me, the garden's all about the planting, of which I know nothing, but I do know how to make a really good backdrop. The thing about a wall in a garden for me is that as time goes on, as it becomes more and more integrated with planting, the better it gets. Beautiful.
Now, here's a question for you. We often get asked, how can one make a raw new wall look less raw and new? And there are a number of different things that, we'd often say as panellists in response to that. One is using, liquid manure, painting that on. Another is using rice water for the bottom of when you boil a pan of rice.
And
yogurt.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now,
do you use those things?
Yes, you've got all those applications. If you want to do that, if you're stuck with a wall that's brash and you want to age it slightly, I go for yogurt and cow muck even. You can have fun as long as it's organic splodge. Stick it on with a brush. You won't go far wrong.
So if I've just had a wall built in my garden and my neighbour looks over the fence and I'm sploshing yogurt and cow muck on it with a feverish glint in my eye, and they say, "What on earth are you doing that for?" What am I going to tell them then?
Well, I suppose the first thing is that you'll get an increase of or a growth of bacteria leading to lichens and moss, and also it stains the wall. It takes that brash colour away and gives you that sort of more subtle rendition.
So is the use of walling stone in gardens a relatively new thing, Richard? I get the impression that it probably is.
Well, as far as I'm aware, not. No. I think it's been around since early 1600s easily. I worked for Lady Armitage. She's passed on now. Beautiful, lovely person. She had an estate at the close to the nunnery where Robin Hood shot his last arrow.
Oh.
She owned the grounds.
Okay.
And that entire estate was surrounded by dry stone walls, 10 feet high at least, and they were to keep deer inside the estate. So this has gone back, goes back a long, long way.
But presumably fashions have changed and moved on. I mean, I'm thinking in particular, things like using dry stone walling to make ornamental structures like spheres and things like that essentially, are playful objects or are art objects.
This is certainly, I would suggest, I wouldn't call it a fashion. It's certainly newer to the field, without a doubt, and some extremely good craftsmen.